It's officially day 8 of the government shutdown, and now lawmakers appear to be at odds when it comes to federal workers receiving back pay once the shutdown is over. A memo obtained by The Hill from the White House's Office of Budget and Management suggests that furloughed workers are not necessarily guaranteed back pay from their time off.
Now, the debate centers around the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019, which President Trump signed during the last government shutdown. The White House is now pushing its own interpretation of that law. Here's what Trump had to say when asked if it was the White House's position that furloughed workers should receive their back pay.
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
It remains to be seen how exactly the Trump administration would go about this proposal, but any attempts to withhold back pay from furloughed workers would likely face legal actions from unions. Lawmakers on the left quickly objected to Trump's comments in the White House memo, like Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett, writing on X, quote, "Let me be clear. It's illegal to deny federal workers back pay after a shutdown. There's a 2019 law that guarantees it, but Trump is once again trying to break the law. You don't get to punish people for doing their jobs just because you're failing at yours."
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson took a more neutral stance, saying that the biggest priority right now should just be getting the government open again.
We don't want this to happen. The key point, the important point to remember here is this can stop right now. They'll get another opportunity to change course and open the government. And then we'll have all these policy debates, as we always do.
Meanwhile, the issue of mass firings in the government continues to come up. President Trump says that time is ticking to keep more layoffs from happening.
How many permanent jobs are you talking about to be eliminated?
Well, I can tell you, I'll be able to tell you that in 4 or 5 days if this keeps going on. If this keeps going on, it'll be substantial, and a lot of those jobs will never come back. But you're going to have a lot closer to a balanced budget.
Something about the idea of using like American workers as a pawn in this obvious contentious moment between Democrats and Republicans doesn't sit well with me, specifically when administration officials told the Washington Post that the goal of the memo and sending it out and kind of even becoming public was to maximize, that's a quote, Republicans' leverage in the shutdown. And so there's people that are really, showing up honorably to work temporarily for free while they get paid on the back end, that have families that are dealing with a tight economy, that are still, even no matter how much it might have cooled down, dealing with inflation and rising prices around the country, and people who work for the government here but also are back and forth. And I think that we just have to be mindful that there's real people involved here that are watching this every day and uncertain, like the rest of the country, about what tomorrow looks like.
Yeah, I think that's true to an extent. So when it comes to the federal government, I think one thing that I don't like to see is the federal government being used as a jobs program. And we obviously have a lot of fat in the federal government that deserves to be cut. And doing a reduction in force during a government shutdown is something that the OMB director has the ability to do. And if that's a way to get rid of individuals who either are not performing well, who are actively sabotaging the president's agenda, or really just aren't needed, I think that makes sense. In terms of the back pay for furloughed workers, I actually would take probably a middle ground on this. I mean, if you're not working, then I think it's understandable why people feel icky about them getting full pay. But I also recognize that the shutdown's not their fault. It's the fault of Congress for not passing a spending bill. So maybe we could meet in the middle and say that they get a certain percentage of their normal paycheck while they're off work.
And I think it's interesting to watch the House Speaker and Senator Thune. They've been vocal even yesterday, like, oh no, we fully expect people will get paid. I think they're watching their tone on this as the American public watches what they say and sees how much they may or may not be involved in this political back and forth. But I also saw an interesting poll from Harvard that came out that 70% of people completely Americans oppose the shutdown. So obviously, and that's my stance too. I think that the government shutting down is just a failure to lead. So I wish that they would solve it. But 53% in that poll are blaming Republicans. It's not that much better for Democrats. It's 47% for Democrats. But at the same time, it's not the win or the home run that generally is the side that's holding up the conversation and wants something added to a spending bill, which generally it's like, okay, it's going to fall on your party as the people to blame. This poll is looking like it actually is still falling on Republicans. And maybe because health insurance and health care is so important to people at this moment, now that it's been brought to their attention, whether they like it or not. I think a conversation would be warranted in order to get people back to work and also make people feel like they're not going to also get back to work and have no money because they'll be paying all of it for health insurance into the holiday or past the holiday season before this expires.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think this is a classic Republican messaging problem. When they're on offense, they don't know how to frame the conversation to get people on their side. And in pretty much every shutdown, they've ended up on the losing side of the PR war because they just don't know how to talk about their policies in a way that resonates with American voters. Trump is really one of the few people in the Republican Party who's actually good at that. And in this case, I think it would be easy for them to say, like, we offered a continuing resolution that was the same spending levels that we passed earlier this spring, which is precisely what Democrats called for in the past year, right? Which is they wanted a simple CR. But now we have a simple CR on the table and Democrats are demanding an additional $1 trillion in spending. Like, that should be really obvious and simple. And I hear some Republicans making that point, but not in a succinct, very direct manner. They're kind of skirting around the issue, and that obviously creates a problem for them politically.
And I think looking at the Democratic Party right now, where it stands, it's almost like, what does the Democratic Party have to lose by taking this toe-to-toe into the end? I think the longest shutdown was more than 30 days, so taking this as far as that one. Because they're looking at just having lost an election with Kamala losing, and then also having no control, really, or overwhelming control in the House or the Senate. They're looking at trying to restructure what the brand of the Democratic Party even is, as we have people like Mamdani that people won't even support, but then you have people who are trying to play the middle and get rid of the woke ideologies completely. Like, I think there's a little bit of what the messaging problem would be. There's a communication about that. And so what I know that they know is that healthcare has been a positive issue for them. Most polling shows that people just think they're on the right side when it comes to healthcare. And so if they know that this is a winning issue, plus they understand that Americans deeply do care, take politics out of it, about making sure they're covered for healthcare, then it's like now or never, because, what would make them have the incentive to believe that Republicans would actually have a conversation, a real conversation that implements policy about healthcare after this? Like, we're getting to the end of the year. I think that you would agree that it may or may not happen. There's no guarantee that Republicans are actually going to take up a conversation about passing some new healthcare policy.
Oh yeah, Republicans have been out to lunch on healthcare for 10 years. I mean, that's nothing
So
new.
that's kind of like why they have to hold their ground right now.
And I think the only thing they have working in their favor is the fact that the Democrats, that is, want to, again, re-implement this, or extend rather, a COVID-era subsidy when the pandemic is long over. And they also want to continue federal reimbursements for states that provide Medicaid funding for illegal immigrants. Like, those are their two strongest talking points on healthcare. But it's true, they haven't provided a comprehensive solution to actually fixing our healthcare problem. And even when they had the opportunity to repeal Obamacare through a skinny repeal, they had, obviously, infamous Senator John McCain giving the thumbs down.
Yeah, so we're going to keep talking about this until the government opens up. But in the meantime, President Trump was recently asked about looking into a pardon for convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, and his response wasn't as definitive as some had hoped. Don't go anywhere.